Hey, 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 is everybody there? I have no idea if anybody's there. I've activated this Q&A app, so if you do, or if somebody's out there and want to give it a shot, go ahead and write me a question. But other than that, we're recording, and let me switch over to me. Happy Friday, everybody. Welcome to the second Film Marketing Fridays. And unfortunately, I don't have any guests today. I'll have to work on trying to recruit some more filmmakers who want to be in on the gig. Because what I can do is I can actually have, I think, up to 10 people. And then we could have, on-air discussions and just be able to answer everybody's question live as best I can. But for today, let's see here. For today, I want to make sure that we kind of continue the conversation of building an audience and finding an audience for your film and sort of applying those basic business principles to your film project to give you the best shot of building a sustainable career. And I'm going to kind of share you the things that I've been doing, testing out, not necessarily succeeding, some stuff that I'm failing at, so you can kind of see that. And let's see here. Well, we might as well get on with it. Let's see here. I've got the Q&A app open. If anybody's out there, you can just say hi. I don't even know if the app's working. I never tried this before, but it says that I activated it. Okay. With that said, let's get on to more about building an audience, finding an audience for your film, and what all that stuff means and how vital it is for success in any type of business, whether or not you're in the film business or not. So I'm going to switch over to the screen share. And here we go. Okay. Let's see here. Boom. Okay, so remember, let's see here. Remember that there are no rules. There are no rules. And so no matter what anybody ever tells you and stuff like that, the bottom line is that this is probably the number one rule, and there are no rules. So how you make something, whatever you do to be successful, or your attempts to build something, you're going to hear a lot of advice, and you can just take it for what it's worth. Oh, let's see here. Oh, great! I got a little question first here. Sorry. We got from Carlene M. She says, I'm about to shoot my first short as director-producer. Other than YouTube, how do you suggest I market it to build an audience? Okay, perfect. So your question kind of fits perfectly into what we're going to get into, Carlene. I'm glad that the Q&A app actually works. So congratulations on getting ready for your first short. And YouTube is great. YouTube and the concept, you actually can sell movies on YouTube, but I think that psychologically people go to YouTube to get free stuff, to see free material. So and they'll accept the ads and all that kind of stuff. So if you're trying to just build awareness, it might be worth it to give it away free. But if you're going to build an audience, I have this idea that perhaps film is nothing more than an advertisement for something else. So all of our independent films that we kind of create, even though it is a film product, I don't necessarily think a business model, as I'm going to show you today, holds. Yeah, I guess what I'm trying to say is, like, I don't know whether or not independent film on this level can support us like in a big lifestyle per se, but it can be used as sort of a advertisement for something else. So I'll continue with that train of thought. So again, there are no rules, and William Goldman, the screenwriter, legendary screenwriter like Butch Cassidy, Sundance Kid, The Princess Bride. I think it's All President's Men. Anyway, he's famous for saying the quote that nobody knows anything in regards to Hollywood, and I think that probably is true for life. So, following up with this concept of there are no rules, this famous quote from Steve Jobs when he said that everything around you that you call life was made up by people that were no smarter than you, and you can change it. You can influence it. You can build things other people use. Once you learn that, you'll never be the same again. And essentially, to sum it up, he was saying there are no rules, that all these things that we dictate or we kind of put our lives around were just made up by people. So it's interesting to kind of put that stuff in perspective. Okay, so let's just do basic business principles. You have a supply. This is what is your product or service? And a lot of us are here to try to build a film product. So that's going to be our supply. Then we have the demand. So that's going to be who is our customer, who's our audience, and then we have distribution, which is how does your customer receive your product. And the last principle is marketing. How do you communicate to your customer that your product is of value? So as long as you kind of break down business in that simplicity, just 4 things: supply and demand, distribution and marketing. What is your product? Who's your customer? How does that customer get your product? And how do you communicate? And that's all marketing is from the last Film Marketing Friday, as we discussed, is that marketing is nothing more than a method of communication. It doesn't have to be icky. It could actually be very creative. If you get really creative in the way that you communicate to your customer, to your audience, the better off you'll be. So, with that said, barriers. So film audiences really have never been a barrier because we have an appetite for film product or appetite for media, and so that demand or the audience, the customer, has always been there. So that hasn't been a barrier. Film production is no longer a barrier because the cost of materials and equipment have been, just decimated. It's been so inexpensive to make a film, and a lot of you probably have come across, my latest film that I had made, which was for $500 with no crew. So this is a feature film, so you can even make something as little as that. And I've met some other filmmakers along the way who've made like 4 films under like $1,000 and stuff like that. So it's totally doable, and it's no longer a barrier. And film distribution is no longer a barrier. And this really actually has come up in the last year with the advent of the rise of aggregators. And aggregators are nothing more than sort of your middleman to like iTunes and Netflix and Hulu and all these other digital platforms where like some place like iTunes, being a marketplace, they only want to deal with a handful of aggregators. It doesn't serve them to deal with individual producers each time somebody wants to submit something to their marketplace, and they have very sort of strict technical guidelines that they want to put in place. And if you want to learn more, you can definitely head over to Jason Brubaker's site at filmmakingstuff.com, and he's spent years in the digital direct distribution companies in that world, and so he knows a lot about it. So we have 3 things that are no longer a barrier. We have audiences, production, and distribution. So that leaves us with the last barrier, which is marketing. And so that's why we're all here, and I think the idea behind this live hangout is to create a discussion place or a place where people can congregate to figure out where they need to go. And so if this is our last barrier, let's figure out how we can do it together to build sustainable living for independent artists, whether or not you're an artist, musician, and filmmaker now. Okay, marketing schmarketing. What is marketing? Of course, I said it's just a method of communicating. That's all it is. And the more creative you can get with it, and the more effective you can get with it, the better off you'll be. But who are we communicating with? So that is the question. And And then last week we talked about who is your ideal fan with Boyan Dulabik and his movie Living Life or Waiting to Die. And we're trying to nail down sort of who his ideal fan was. So I'm going to, one thing they teach us sort of like online entrepreneurs, they recommend that the first thing you do is create your ultimate avatar. And really all your avatar is like a very specific customer or your fan, like we said last week, your ideal fan. And so I want to kind of share with you what Film Trooper is about, because Film Trooper is a web resource for helping filmmakers become entrepreneurs. So I had to kind of create my own avatar to figure this out, and this would be helpful for you in terms of you're going to try to find like who would be your ideal fan for your film, whatever your film topic is. Is it a horror film or is like a thought-provoking drama about elderly people, and like who would that ideal fan be of your film? So I'll show you sort of how I broke this down. So why this is important too, I'll follow up with that. So who is Film Trooper's avatar? And this is just according to me. Well, his name is Bob. He's 35 years old. Bob is a former film school graduate. Bob works as a Bob works a freelance. It's supposed to be Bob works as a freelance video producer. Bob owns all of his own equipment. Bob has a wife, 2 kids, a dog, and a cat. Money is dwindling from the number of freelance gigs. There is stress in the house over money. Bob's body is sore from the labor of production. All Bob wanted to do is make movies. Bob has fears that the film industry will implode. Middle-class wages are hard to earn. Bob knows that he has talent to make movies. Bob wants a better life for his family. Bob is afraid of getting work outside the industry. Bob is afraid of giving up on his dream. Bob is looking for answers. So it's very specific. The idea is that you paint a very specific picture of who your ideal avatar is, who your ideal fan is, who your ideal customer is, your audience. And what that does, it puts you sort of empathetically in their place, in this sort of imaginary person. But you can believe that there's people out there like that. And so in order to market to them, in order to communicate with them, you're going to have to pinpoint all these pain points and then try to identify it for them and then give them answers and solutions. And if your film can do that, if it has some sort of element, some sort of theme in your film, you can do that. For me, for Film Trooper, I have to sort of to try to work my advertising, my communicating, my marketing to these specific pain points of this fictitious avatar that I created. But it's very specific avatar. So let's see here. All right, traditional market research. So you've heard about comparables or comps. Like if you're in real estate, obviously like, oh, yeah, we can sell your home, but we got to do some comps. So they'll do comparables within the surrounding neighborhood, 5-mile radius or whatever. But they got to make sure that the house was like around the same, year it was built, the number of rooms, all the amenities have to be as closely alike as possible to give you the most accurate comp or comparable. And the problem is with film, it's the same thing. Like if you're going to build sort of like a traditional film where you're trying to raise like private equity or pre-sales and soft money and all that kind of stuff, you have to do sort of your traditional market research on your film. But the problem is a lot of independent filmmakers will say, oh, I've got a comedy. It's a female raunchy comedy or whatever like that. And I'm going to give kudos to Stacey Parks over at filmspecific.com. I just listened to a latest podcast of hers, and she and this particular filmmaker were talking about this. So it's just sort of on top of mind because I just listened to it just like yesterday. Anyhow, they were discussing that the problem is like something like Bridesmaid came out. and showed success in that genre of like female raunchy comedies. However, that film had major studio backing. It had notable stars, not like big stars, but people who were familiar with a lot of the actresses that were in the film. They weren't like unknowns. So if you're an independent producer and coming up with your own female raunchy comedy, um, you can't use as a comparable. You can't say, well, look, Bridesmaid made X amount of hundreds of millions of dollars. You have to, unless you can say that you have the same distribution backing, you have the same budget, you have the same caliber of stars, then you can make a more of an accurate comparable. But if you have like nobody, meaning that no notable stars, your budget is very, very little, and you have absolutely no distribution deal in place, you can't use it as a fair comparison. So those are the types of things you need to think about when you do like a traditional market research and working on comps and comparables. Obviously, you got to figure out what your genre is. Again, is it a fair comparison? And do you really know your audience? Again, that's why you need to back up and create this sort of checklist of who your ideal fan is or your ideal avatar, and then know how to reach them. And here's the thing too. As you're discovering this, your script should tell you sort of what your film's theme is. And here's another thing: you don't even have to have written a script. If you have narrowed down sort of like who you want your audience to be, who you want your ideal fan to be, your ideal customer to be, then you can start writing a script to their pain points, as I had pointed out earlier in the slides with the Film Trooper's Ultimate Avatar. So within those themes, sort of that's the sort of subconscious message that you would be selling to this ideal fan base. So I use a lot of interchangeable. There's avatar, there's fan, there's audience and customer. It's all like sort of the same thing. It's semantics. So how to communicate your theme or your themes with your audience. All right, what do we got here? Oh, so I'm going to show you something with Google keyword search or their AdWords tool. So let me switch back over to my mug real quick. Here we go. Whoops, where is it? Oh, there we go. All right. Hope you guys are still with me. It's weird talking this. You have no idea if anybody's out there. Okay, so I wanted to show you. I'm going to screen share over to. Let's see here. An idea. This is sort of an idea of possibly how to. All right, so here I'm going to kind of zoom this up. So we should be on this. So this is my film on Vimeo on Demand, The Cube. And here's the thing. This is all the stuff I did wrong. One, I never built an audience. I didn't even know who the audience was because, frankly, I didn't even know if I can make this movie. And so actually, after I made the movie, I'm like, okay, let's figure out what I can do with it. So I made sure that I identified it in a very specific sort of description in terms of genre. I just literally said it's a supernatural suspense movie. I can't even say suspense. What a tongue twister. Let's see here. And I knew that my first sort of marketing or messaging that I was going to put out there was that, hey, this is kind of crazy. I made this film for $500 with no crew. I didn't even think it could be done. It wasn't intended that way, but that's what happened. So I was sort of marketing it via filmtrooper.com to other filmmakers. So that was sort of the audience. But we all know that filmmakers, independent filmmakers, are all over the place in terms of their interest and sort of their response. So I was hoping to kind of play on the idea that if I was at a film festival and during a Q&A, someone would ask, like, hey, what was your budget and what did you shoot it on? So I was trying to answer those normal questions that come up at a film festival Q&A. But since then, let me see here. I noticed I needed to expand my audience, and my movie has sort of this. Let's see here. This Buddhist theme. It's really the way it works It's oh look, we got somebody calling into me. Um, it's essentially the film is like a Buddhist take on the Adam and Eve story, the original sin. Sorry, there's all this stuff kind of popping in. So what I did is I went back and I decided like let's recreate a poster that sort of very clearly features like the cube and Buddha or the Buddha statue that's in the movie because I knew that I'm beginning to start. And what is going on here? So I don't know why it keeps doing that. Oh, here we go. So I knew I needed to sort of redesign my messaging. And so I started with the poster. And then I'm going to do some other sort of artwork that I throw out there on social media, and Twitter and Instagram and Pinterest. And the idea behind that is I'm trying to go beyond the reach of independent filmmakers and start reaching out to those who might be interested in a movie that has some Buddhist themes to it. So that's, identifying that type of stuff. I'm only just begun, but I'm slowly getting out there. So as you can see, I started with this first with a poster, an image, and now I need to figure out how to communicate or find groups online that I can be involved with, that I can start slowly advertising to or communicating with, that I have this movie here that they might be interested in. I don't know. It's all part of the test and part of the trial and error. So let's see here. Okay. Okay, here we go. So what we do is, if you ever used Google AdWords before, it's a free service you can sign up with, and it's usually used for like marketers and stuff like that. But this is kind of the back end of it. So let's do a search for like Buddha and see what happens. So you get ideas. And I'm going to just kind of zoom in this because it make it easier for you to see, because it's kind of hard. Here we go. Dun, 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 dun. Okay, that should be pretty big. And all right. So Buddha. Let me see here. Let's go back a little bit. I can't even see it. Okay. So what Google does is show you sort of the search functions. What is this? So it's interesting. They've got like Buddha picture, Buddha quotes, Buddha meaning, Buddha image, the Thai Buddha. So I'm half Thai, and so there's a lot of things about Thai being from Thailand in the movie. So let's hit Thai. Thai Buddha shows us that Thai Buddha statues. People that are actually typing this in, Thai Buddha statues, gets an average monthly search of about 110. And they're saying that competition. This is like if you're going to buy like ads on with AdSense, that your bid is about 38 cents per click, and you can see the reason why is that people are looking for an actual product. So they're looking for a Thai Buddha statue. They're looking for a Thai Buddha amulet. So whoever is searching for these terms are looking for it in terms of actually buying a product. And so how does that help you kind of find your audience? Well, the way the Google search works, or keyword search, it kind of gives you an idea, like, okay, this phrase only yields about 110 searches a month, 140. So if we go back, it goes, okay, well, what the heck is giving me higher monthly searches? Sorry, that was my train of thought. So we got like Buddha quote. Somebody just wants to get like quotes from Buddha. The average monthly search is about 1,000. So you can start doing your metrics. Like, wait, I wrote like a blog for Ted Hope's site called "Why 1% is the Most Important Number for Filmmakers," and the concept is that no matter where you are, only 1% are actually going to either buy your product or give you a conversion of interest, and so on. So out of 1,000 searches a month, only really 1% will actually maybe take action and buy something, if this was indeed something that a keyword search that you would buy. So all this stuff is helpful because you can see sort of the analytics and the data behind what people think and what specific keywords they're typing in to search for, and gives you the numbers. So that's important because I looked at here. Um, Buddha S just stands for the, like, I don't know, like somebody S Life, so Palms. Look how small this numbers is. 10 monthly searches. You know, that's probably not enough for you to spend your time writing a blog post on Buddha S Palm or Buddha's life or something. It looks like the high traffic is coming from, like, come on, let's go back. Buddha quotes and Buddha statues, you know. So what I would do from there, we can also do, here's something cool about, here, I'm just going to type this in. We'll do Buddhism. All right. Get ideas. So Buddhism belief, facts on Buddha. So here's interesting. So we can do some facts. So we've got Buddhism religion facts, about 260 views, huh? Or I know what I was looking for, because it is, my movie is about, like, oh, here it is. This is what I was looking for: Buddhism and Christianity. And you can see from here that typing in Buddhism Christianity as opposed to Christianity Buddhism, look at the difference in how it yields. We got 210 average monthly searches versus 50. So what I would do is then start creating blog posts and articles or searches within social media that start with Buddhism Christianity. Or if I know that if I switch the terms Christianity and Buddhism, you know, that's going to be very specific, but, you know, there's not many people searching it. And the idea is not to necessarily get to the top of the search, but to be part of this conversation of these terms of, you know, like I could create a YouTube video that says, hey, you know, here's Buddhism and Christianity. What are the differences? What are the similarities? I made, you know, and then I could talk about, get more specific in this conversation about, like, what does this mean? And then go back to the cube and say, like, I made a movie that I try to explore these concepts of Buddhism's take on Christianity, or not really Christianity, but the story of the original sin, Adam and Eve. And so you can see how you would use something like Google AdWords to figure out sort of searches so that you can properly build the best strategy to market, to communicate with your audience based off sort of what people are searching for. Now, that's just it's just an idea, it's just a technique, it's something that a lot of online entrepreneurs use for different reasons, but maybe this is something we could use as independent filmmakers to target our audience or find our audience and send, you know, marketing materials to them. And again, this could be everything from tweets to, you know, Facebook posts to YouTube videos and so on. I want to show you an example of this movie I just saw the other day. This is DMT, the spirit molecule, and this is a documentary about the hallucinogenic molecule that's present in plants and mammals and even humans, called DMT, which is, like, I don't know, a lot more powerful than LSD. And so they made this very, you know, really interesting documentary, and they just got it on Netflix. And one of the producers on the film is Andrew Lee, and Andrew Lee runs, I think, the indie film producers Google Plus community, and he's off and running and doing some other film projects. But what's interesting is that they have a huge following on Facebook. So here, I'll pop this up so you can see it better. So on Facebook, they've got over 357 likes. And the reason that they do that is that they have a very specific target audience about, maybe it's the drug culture, maybe it's the psychedelic culture, or people interested in something beyond ourselves. And sort of they've created this you know, fan page and be able to generate this many likes because they've created something that goes beyond their film. Obviously, here's the trailer for the film. It's on Netflix. But now they have a conversation. They start setting up posts from and other blogs that are related to their movie about the spirit molecule. And it's fascinating because then the conversation continues, and their film is really almost like an advertisement for this discussion for something deeper. Now, obviously, this is a documentary, and you're trying to, maybe you're working on something that's like a genre film, a comedy, a horror film, and you're wondering like, well, how can you continue the conversation outside of your film? And for me, like I have the cube, and like I messed up and I didn't build an audience. I didn't build any awareness. I sort of just made it, and then I'm slowly building sort of awareness for it. And I have to be realistic about sort of the reach that I can make, because I don't necessarily think it has the same social impact or follow-up as the DMT documentary does. So if you are starting a new project, or you're looking at your own project and you're trying to figure out how can you create more life for it, because the longer tail, or the more value you can give to your audience in the long run, the better your film is going to be positioned. Because we as independent filmmakers kind of have to play the long tail game, meaning that we make a little bit of money here, a little bit of money there, and sort of just hope that the film has legs for a long time and people find it over time. The only way that people find it over time, if there's a place like this that has discussion, more discussion about your topic. Obviously, they've really grown, and the cube has like nothing. It's got like whatever, my mom and her friends, saying liking it. So you can see the differences of like where you can build an audience, be very specific to your audience, and build more of a discussion and topic, because you kind of have to do that to be successful online. And let's see here. Let's see. I'm going to go back to me. Okay. Sorry about the infinite windows there. So with that said, let's see. I've got some more stuff on my pseudo PowerPoint presentation. I don't know what Google calls it. I think they just call it presentation. But that's what I use. I'm using Google's Docs, and they have a presentation thing. Does anyone else have any questions? Before I go on to the next slides. All right, cool. Let's see here. Well, let's go to the next set of slides. All right, so here we go. What's the next? What did I write? Oh, yeah. So that's the question. So what do you do with this research, right? So the main thing you want to do, again, is answer your audience pain points. And you just got to get creative. You're like, well, wait, if people just want to have a escape, and watch a sci-fi movie or a horror film or a comedy, what pain points am I answering with my genre film? Well, that's where your theme comes in. You can still, follow the genre rules, but you tweak it maybe the last 10-20% of your story to address sort of this theme, and the theme is the answer to this pain point of a very specific audience that you're creating or you're identifying. As we said, you can customize your blog posts based off like the data you might be getting from Google search, and the AdWords, and seeing like what really people are searching for and how much impact it has, or how many monthly searches come out of it. So whether or not you can make that determination whether or not it's relevant or not. So you customize your blog posts, you customize your marketing materials, all that kind of stuff. Maybe I say it here. Yeah, you customize your social media strategy to engage people, like the DMT Spirit Molecule did, that movie. And customize your videos. So if you're going to start putting some additional videos together, you can use the search tool to do so. And actually, I'll show you something maybe a little later on YouTube. YouTube has sort of, because it's built into the Google search, it already has sort of suggested searches or things that people search for the most. And by taking those search results, you can customize your videos to sort of better fit those keywords. Let's see here. Okay, so the bottom line is we've got to create fascination. I mean, that's probably the only thing, and it's, when I say create, that's the creative part of it. That's a creative part of marketing. That's a creative part of building a communication line to your ideal audience, your ideal fan. And you've got to give them fascination about whatever project that you're working on. It can't be, like, hey, I've got this project, check it out. Or it's like, hey, or I got this crowdfunding thing, check it out. Like, check it out's got to be the last thing you'll ever do, unless you have built sort of fascination or built sort of interest into your project. And really the thing is, you got to learn sort of copywriting, the copywriting skills. The art of copywriting is very, very beneficial in the fact nowadays we're only basing things off headlines. Two things that we deal with in social media is a good headline, and if it's got a good picture or animated GIF or GIF or however they pronounce it, or some sort of video attached to it. So we're moving in that way, but it's got to be fascinating. And then you got to connect your theme with your audience. And the way I look at it is that your theme of your film is going to be the answer to whatever pain point that your audience has. And when I say that, I think we were talking, I don't know where I was talking about this before, but I think, like, if you're trying to make a sci-fi film, there's so many variations of a sci-fi film. Maybe there's just an audience that just wants to see a space travel films that are rooted, accurately to scientific fact, and that they kind of want more of that. Obviously, Gravity was huge. We're not saying that you have to make something that, visual effects impressive, and yes, there were some inaccuracies in terms of the science on Gravity, very little, but the reality is it was rooted as much as it could to reality, and that could be like a whole subgenre that people are hungry for. Why? Because they maybe the audience has a pain point for this deep desire to be explorers. There's probably two kinds of people. I don't know if you ever heard this before. There's two kinds of people. You're either an astronaut or you're an astronomer. So an astronomer sits back and is passionate about it and looks to the stars, where an astronaut's like, I'm going to go out there and and be that adventurer out to the stars. So somewhere along in those lines, your audience has some sort of secret desire. You just have to figure out what that secret desire is, and then figure out how your theme works into that. And here we go. We got a question real quick. It says, we got from Christian. I'm going to probably mess up the middle name. I'm sorry. I'll just call you Christian Swalmias Dado. And if I mess that up, you just, send me an email at how you pronounce it correctly. Oh, wait. Where did your question go? I think he was, Christian had something about audiences. For some reason, the question went away. If you want to pop it back up, Christian, I'll try to answer it again. For some reason, the app, the question went away. Okay, so I guess I'll continue. So films sort of equal dreams, and then films equals sort of the psychology. So that's sort of why we love films, I think. I think there's something beautiful about that darkened room, or just being captivated in a small space, because we want to be transformed, and there's something that is being done by storytelling that is working on our psyche, and as long as we know into that. So our job is to tap into those dreams, those I can't speak, tap into those dreams, those desires, and the psychology. And if you can do that, you can then position yourself better to create marketing materials or communication materials to answer those things. Let me see here. And then, oh, hey, there we are. Oh, perfect. I guess I answered the question for Christian. Thanks. So that's sort of the angle we would take for, marketing a genre film. And I'm going to come back to me. So, yeah, sorry about here. I'm going to switch something up real quick. Okay. Yeah, we're at 40-minute mark, so that's kind of all that I wanted to kind of present today, was sort of like this idea of how sort of online entrepreneurs are using Google's keyword search, how they go about trying to identify an audience and identify a market that they will sell to. Because the concept is really sort of basic. They look for a customer base that is willing to spend money, and then they try to find out what problems or pains that they're having, and then the entrepreneur swoops in and tries to offer a solution to those pains, information products, a product in general, a software solution, and then they sell it to. It's almost like pre-made. Like if an audience is clamoring for things that they want, saying like, "Oh, I'm struggling with this. I have a pain with this. I wish somebody made a product like this," and then somebody makes a product like it, then it's almost like easy to sell it to them and easy to market to them because they're identifying the pain, they're identifying the problem, and then they sell a solution to that. So with that said, we have to kind of figure out how we can do that with film products. And Hollywood has shifted to the big tentpole projects because if they're going to invest that much money into a film, they might as well go really, really big and just start exploiting sort of all that the big grandiose spectacle movie. And so all these other little films or projects are going to fall through the cracks, and it's going to be left to the independents like ourselves to try to figure out how we can answer specifically to those audience pain points. Oh, so let me look at Christian's question. It says, speaking of connecting with your audience, do you ever do any audience research before you shoot the movie to figure out who you're talking to, or do you make the film and then figure out how to sell it to? And obviously I answer that. Oh, perfect. Refer to your pronunciation of my surname. Well, thank you. Thanks, Christian. So the question is, do you do the market research before? There's a concept that crowdfunding kind of allows you to kind of test your idea out. If you present an idea and you put it up in a crowdfunding campaign and it goes nowhere, then maybe the audience is telling you that we're not interested in this particular project and we won't pay for it. So you can make your decisions that way. But I can tell you this much. Sometimes I think a lot of us out there as artists or filmmakers, there's just an itch. There is a creative itch that you just got to scratch. And and no sort of market research or anything like that makes sense for whatever's in your head. And you just have this need to express it. You have this need to share it, to make it happen, because there's sort of something, a gut level, that just tells you got to make it. I'm gonna be telling you, like for the Cube, I had actually for a couple of years now been trying to reverse engineer a project based on the feedback that I got at the American film market, talking to film buyers and sales agents, and kind of really get an idea of like what people would be willing to pay for, since if they were the last gatekeepers. And I would start a project, I would start writing something, and I realized like I wrote something too big. Like I'll write a scene, I'm like, oh my gosh, that's going to take so much money and effort, and it was a struggle to try to find a story that I would be excited to make. And so the Cube was that for me, and I really think it was more personal, just to get it off my chest to see if I could do it or not. And it had really no market value whatsoever. So, but creatively, it was really helpful just to release it and then express it. But I made sure that I made it for really cheap, because I knew the business side of it, things I did not want to risk spending thousands of dollars on an idea that I knew that probably won't make any money back whatsoever. But if you can make a film for so inexpensive, a couple $100, maybe if you can afford a couple $1,000, then that you might have a loss leader. You just might have to just make it just to make it for yourself, and then you could see if it identifies or connects with an audience later. They don't recommend that. The experts, they always say you got to build your audience first and extract what they need, and go from there. So if you look back to the first part of the PowerPoint presentation, the presentation I said, there are no rules. So you kind of just have to weigh that out. As long as you sort of know how the game works in terms of what makes certain entrepreneurs successful or certain filmmakers successful. Obviously, something like the DMT documentary was very specific, and probably already had I think an active community that was interested in this very interesting molecule that exists. So they were able to tap into something very specific and then build it from there. Obviously, something like a genre film, like a suspense film like mine. We just do a broad stroke, like, oh, if you like suspense movies, you might like this. But I have to sort of narrow it down even further And that's what I'm exploring now with trying to market it to those who might be interested in Buddhist themes or whatnot. I don't know. The other thing, it just takes a lot of work, and so I have to piecemeal it slow here and there because I'm just by myself doing it, and so I have to be realistic in what my expectations on my returns are. I'm hoping that as I continue, it picks up momentum on its own or finds discussion, and it leads them back to my film, and maybe out of whatever a couple hundred people seeing the trailer, one or two will actually buy it. And so those are the realistic numbers I've got to face, and that we all have to face, is that the way the online biz marketplace works is that you just try to get as many leads in to your site, to your project, and then be realistic to know that you're only probably going to get a 1 to 2% conversion from those leads that come in. So you sort of have to plan accordingly to that. Um, anyway, so I actually got to wrap up in like 15 minutes. So if anybody else has any other questions, I could try to help answer, or at least share what the experts would say to you. Again, I'm not an expert. I'm literally just trying to apply all the stuff that I've been learning over the years, and seeing the successes from it, the realities from it, and the failures from it, and like things that work and don't work. And so yeah, again, I want to thank Carlene and Christian for partaking in the Q&A. I'm glad that it's actually working. So next time, it'd be really cool to have guests actually part of this, so I can see you guys in the very bottom, and we can pop up and have live video chat conversations. Well, with that said, let's see here. I actually have to take off in about 10 minutes. I have this audition for some sort of commercial where I play a barbecue dad, which is why I'm wearing this Hawaiian shirt. It's part of the so I don't know. I only barbecue a little bit. I'm definitely not a grill master, so I got to fake it. Um, yeah. So if no other questions, then thanks for tuning in for the second one. And those who missed it, again, this is going to be the cool thing about Hangouts on air, is that it gets broadcast live, and then it goes to gets recorded, and then becomes its own YouTube video that you can review later. And it's amazing, the technology that they're offering right now. And for a real quick tip for anybody who wants to do their own Hangouts on the air, what happened to me? Let's see. The problem with Google, there's so many different versions. Like if you're in Google, your Google Plus profile, you'll see like on the right-hand side, start a Hangout. That's literally just like a video conferencing Hangout. But if you want to start one that's Hangout on air, then you got to go over to the left side of your menu and look for Hangouts, and then there's Hangouts live on air. You click that tab, and then you've got to click Start Your Own, and then as I start my own, then you can actually schedule that like for a week out or whatever it is, and there's all these little things like you've got to actually activate the Q&A app prior to even launching the podcast, or I mean the live Hangout. Anyway, it was really confusing, which is why a lot of people still have had issues trying to start their own, or what happened to us in the first episode, which was I thought by starting an event that I would be able to then tie in the Hangout on air, which didn't happen. It just started an event, and then I had to route everybody over to the actual Hangout on the air. It was just really confusing, but I think I've got it down now. And there's all these other apps that Hangout on the air offer. So if you wanted to try your own, you could do so. I'm just glad the Q&A worked. I'm glad the screen sharing worked. Oh, here's another thing. Last week we tried to show off Bolyon's trailer to his movie, and even though the Google Hangout has this app called like YouTube, where you can actually grab a feed from the YouTube interface, it would not play the audio, and it wouldn't play the audio because of like copyright stuff. Oh, I got a question here from Carlene. She says, let me see. Is this all it? Is this it? Oh no, it's some weird thing. It's called acting. Oh, thanks. That's from Christian said it's called acting. There you go. It's a little delayed, I think, when it kind of pops up here. Uh, let's see here. Oh, and somebody's at the door. I don't know if you can hear my dog barking. Well, okay, with all that said, yeah, back to the YouTube app that's actually built into the Hangouts on the Air. You can't use it because you can see the video, but you can't hear it because of like their copyright protection. So you can use it privately if you're going to have like a private Hangout, that app. So I'm going to have to figure out a way to show off other filmmakers' trailers. So if you're a filmmaker out there that wants to be part of the Filmmaking Fridays, then by all means, you know, just join the Film Trooper Google Plus community, and then just, you know, talk to me, and then we'll get you set up to be part of this, and then we can show off your film, or you have questions about the film you're working on, even if it's all early on in your stage of production or development. That's kind of cool to talk about, because then you get like sort of a community feedback, and to try to make sure you're doing the best track you can to make your project successful. And so I'll figure out a way to feature people's trailers on the Hangout on the Air to bypass sort of the copyright thing. I think I know a way I can do that. But by all means, yeah. Let's see here. Next Friday might be interesting. I'm booked to do a commercial, so I don't know what my call times are, and I'm not too sure I can swing a Friday session. But if I can, I'll let you know. If not, I'll let you know as well. So let's see here. Oh, Carlene, great hangout. Learned lots of helpful info. Good luck on the audition. Thanks, Carlene. Much appreciated. And I think with that said, I got 8 minutes before I got to jam out of here. And thank you, everyone who stuck around to watch this session. And let's build it up a little bit more. I hope, like I said, get more filmmakers actually on the Hangout with me, so we can have some real discussions back and forth, and figure out ways to help each other, and all that kind of good stuff. So I'm excited to share you my failures and any successes that I can come up with, or any things that I stumble upon as I continue down my journey. You could always find more at filmtrooper.com, and or if you want to get a free gear guide, an equipment list of everything that I made to make the film The Cube, again, always go to freegearguide.com. I got to figure out an app where to type that in. I don't know. I could show you, but I'll do that later. All right, I'm going to sign off. If anybody else has any questions, let me know. Christian, thank you so much. He said, thanks for taking the time, Scott. Keep up the good work, and good luck. And thank you very much, Christian, and Carlene, for participating in the Q&A. It made me feel less alone out here. Okay, I think, let's see. I want to make sure I got everybody's questions. Perfect. All right. Can't believe it's been an hour already. Man, you just have discussions like that. Or maybe I ramble too much. All right, guys. Thank you so much. We'll see you next week, hopefully, if everything works out. So here we go. I'm trying to make it like, there we go. Thank you so much for watching Film Trooper Presents Film Marketing Fridays. This is our second one. And I'll see you guys out there in the Google Plus community, or just reach me Twitter, or just head on over to filmtrooper.com and see all the resources that we have over there.